Alana Montgomery is about to discover her father was murdered. But here's the twisted part. She's trapped on a private jet with his killer, and she has no idea. $3.2 billion. That's what she just inherited from Henry Montgomery, the hotel tycoon who died of a heart attack 6 months ago. Except he didn't. The text message burning on her phone right now. It's from beyond the grave. 3 words that will destroy her entire world. Trust no one, especially him. Him is Thomas Hale, her father's best friend. The man who raised her. The man controlling her billions right now. The man who's been playing the longest revenge game in history. And when she finally corners him with the evidence, he doesn't deny it. He pulls a gun in the middle of a board meeting. But what Alana does next, it's not what you think. She doesn't call the police. She doesn't run for her life. She destroys $3 billion, burns her entire inheritance to ashes. Kindly subscribe and comment. Now, would you burn billions for revenge? Because what happens next will make you question everything you think you'd do. The champagne flute slips from Alana Montgomery's fingers. It doesn't shatter. The private jet's carpeting is too plush, too expensive for something as dramatic as breaking glass. Instead, it rolls beneath her seat, leaving a golden trail across Italian leather while she stares at 3 words on her phone screen. Trust no one, especially him. 30,000 feet above Manhattan, surrounded by cream-colored luxury and the gentle hum of jet engines, Alana's perfectly constructed world tilts sideways. The message isn't new. It appeared 2 hours ago, embedded in a photograph of her father's journal, a page she's never seen before, a page that shouldn't exist. Her father has been dead for 6 months. She reaches for the armrest, fingers digging into supple leather. Through the window, city lights sparkle like scattered diamonds, oblivious to the fact that everything she believes about her life might be a lie. The Montgomery empire, hotels, real estate, tech investments worth $3.2 billion, suddenly feels like a house of cards built on secrets she was never meant to discover. Ms. Montgomery? Thomas Hale's voice cuts through her spiraling thoughts. He's standing in the aisle, concern etched across his distinguished features, silver hair perfectly styled even at midnight. Her mentor, her father's best friend. The man who held her hand at the funeral, while cameras flashed and whispered that everything would be okay. The man the journal warns her about. "I'm fine," she says, but her voice sounds strange, distant. She watches him settle into the seat across from her, watches the way his eyes flick to her phone before meeting her gaze. Has he always looked at her like that? Like he's calculating something? Or is paranoia already poisoning her perception? "You look pale." He reaches across the table between them, hand extended. "Long day. You should rest before the Tokyo meetings." Alana doesn't take his hand. Instead, she picks up her phone, thumb hovering over the mysterious message. The sender is listed as unknown, but the photograph is unmistakably her father's handwriting. That distinctive slant, the way he pressed harder on capital letters. "Thomas," she hears herself say, "do you remember the last conversation you had with my father?" Something flickers across his face. Too quick to name, too deliberate to miss. "Of course," he says smoothly. "We discussed the Singapore acquisition." "Why?" "The Singapore acquisition that nearly bankrupted them. The one Thomas insisted was her father's final wish, even though it made no strategic sense. The one that transferred control of 3 subsidiary companies into a trust Thomas manages." Alana's heart pounds against her ribs. She thinks about the locked study at the Montgomery estate, the one she hasn't entered since her father died. She thinks about the lawyer who called last week, hesitant, asking if she'd received the package her father left instructions to send 6 months after his death. There was no package. Until tonight. No reason, she lies, watching his shoulders relax infinitesimally. just missing him. Thomas smiles, warm and paternal, and returns to his tablet. Alana turns back to the window, her reflection ghostly against the darkness. Somewhere below, in a city that never sleeps, someone knows the truth about Henry Montgomery's death. Someone is waiting to see if his daughter is brave enough, or foolish enough, to look for it. Her phone vibrates with a second message. The safe, behind the Monet, code 051483, her parents' wedding date. The Montgomery estate sits like a crown jewel in the Hamptons, all glass and stone and carefully manicured silence. Alana arrives at 3 a.m., dismissing her driver with a wave that looks casual but feels like paranoia. She doesn't want witnesses for what she's about to do. The house is dark, except for security lights that paint everything in cold blue. Her heels click against marble as she moves through rooms filled with furniture worth more than most people's homes. Past the gallery, where a Basquiat hangs alongside family portraits, through the dining room where her father hosted presidents and tech moguls, toward the study that's been locked since his final night alive. Her hands shake as she enters the code. The door opens with a whisper. Inside, everything is exactly as he left it. His reading glasses on the desk, a tumbler with 2 fingers of scotch, evaporated to an amber stain. The Monet, water lilies at Giverny, hanging on the west wall, serene and perfect and hiding God knows what. Alana approaches the painting like it might bite. Her father bought it at auction for $14 million, called it his retirement fund, even though Henry Montgomery would never retire. She remembers him standing in this exact spot, staring at those painted lilies with an expression she couldn't read. Now she understands. He wasn't admiring art. He was protecting secrets. The painting swings away easily, revealing a wall safe she never knew existed. The code, her parents' wedding date, works on the first try, and the door clicks open with finality that feels like crossing a threshold she can't uncross. Inside, a leather portfolio, thick with documents. A burner phone, 3 USB drives labelled with dates spanning the last decade, and a letter sealed with red wax, addressed in her father's hand. For Alana. When you're ready to know the truth, she breaks the seal. My darling girl, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and you've discovered that the life I built for you was constructed on foundations you never questioned. I'm sorry for leaving you unprepared, for trusting the wrong people, for believing I had more time. Thomas Hale is not who you think he is. The words blur. Alana sinks into her father's chair, the leather creaking under her weight, and forces herself to continue reading. 20 years ago, I made a deal that saved the Montgomery Empire. Thomas provided capital when we were days from bankruptcy, and in exchange, I gave him something I thought was worthless, a minority stake in our holding company. I didn't know then what I learned too late. That stake included provisions allowing him to seize control if I died before restructuring the trust. He's been waiting, Alana, positioning himself, moving pieces on a board you didn't know you were playing on. I've spent the last 5 years documenting everything, the shell companies, the offshore accounts, the way he's systematically transferred our assets into structures he controls. It's all in the portfolio. Use it wisely. Trust no one in the company. They're either complicit or compromised. There's more, but not here. Captain Reed has the rest. He's the only person I trust completely. I love you. Be smarter than I was. Dad. The letter falls from her hands. Alana stares at the portfolio, at the evidence of a conspiracy that's been unfolding for 2 decades, her whole life. Every business decision, every trusted advisor, every carefully constructed moment of her inheritance, potentially orchestrated by a man she calls Uncle Thomas. Her phone buzzes. A text from Thomas. Safe arrival? We should discuss the Tokyo strategy before your flight. She looks at the message, then at the documents scattered across her father's desk. In the portfolio, she finds a photograph clipped to a financial statement. Thomas and her father, 20 years younger, shaking hands. Behind them, barely visible, a third man, face shadowed but familiar in a way that makes her skin crawl. She photographs everything, uploading files to an encrypted cloud drive her father set up years ago, just in case. Then she carefully returns the portfolio to the safe, swings the Monet back into place, and walks out of the study as if she's just been reminiscing. But as she closes the door, she sees it, a fresh scuff mark on the hardwood, right outside the study entrance. Someone has been here recently. Someone who stood exactly where she's standing, probably wondering the same thing she is now. How much does Thomas know about what her father left behind? The Montgomery Group headquarters occupies 42 floors of glass and steel in downtown Manhattan. Alana has worked here since college, learning the business from the ground up, or so she thought. Now, riding the private elevator to the executive suite, she sees everything differently. The security guard who greets her with a warm smile. Does he report her movements to Thomas? The assistant who brings her coffee exactly how she likes it. Who trained her to be so attentive? The mahogany-paneled boardroom where she's made billion-dollar decisions. How many of those decisions were actually hers? You look tired, Thomas says. Thomas, appearing in her doorway with the quiet authority of someone who belongs everywhere. He's wearing a charcoal suit that probably costs more than her assistant makes in a month. Distinguished, trustworthy, a wolf in Brioni. Jet lag, Alana lies, not looking up from her computer screen where she's pulled up 20 years of financial records. I'll be fine for the Tokyo call. He moves into her office uninvited, settling into the chair across from her desk. The same way he sat across from her on the jet, the same way he's sat across from her for years, offering advice she never questioned. I've been thinking, he says, voice carefully casual. Perhaps we should delay the Tokyo expansion. The market indicators are… No. Alana meets his eyes, watching for reactions. We proceed as planned. It's what my father would have wanted. Something crosses his face. Surprise, maybe, or calculation. Your father also believed in strategic patience. Sometimes waiting is the wisest move. And sometimes, Alana says, pulling up a specific file her father flagged in the portfolio, acting quickly prevents others from positioning against you. Isn't that what you always taught me, Uncle Thomas? The word uncle hangs between them, suddenly grotesque. He's not her uncle. He's not even family. He's a man who saw an opportunity in her father's desperation and has been exploiting it ever since. Of course. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. I just want what's best for you, Alana, for the company. Your father entrusted me with… I know exactly what my father entrusted you with. The words come out sharper than intended. Alana forces herself to soften, to smile, to be the grieving heiress who trusts too much. Sorry, I'm just stressed. This is my first major deal without him. Thomas relaxes, reaching across the desk to pat her hand. His touch makes her skin crawl, but she doesn't pull away. Not yet. You're doing wonderfully, he says. Henry would be proud. After he leaves, Alana locks her door and pulls up the security footage from the Montgomery estate. She has access to everything. Her father made sure of that, and she scrolls back to the night he died. There, Thomas Hale, entering the study at 11:47 p.m., emerging at 12:23 a.m., carrying nothing visible but moving with purpose. Her father's official time of death, 1:15 a.m. The coroner ruled it a heart attack, natural causes. A man of 68, under stress from business pressures, simply giving out. There was no autopsy. Thomas had convinced her it would be undignified, that Henry wouldn't want his body desecrated by strangers. Alana watches the footage again, frame by frame. Thomas's expression as he exits the study. Not grief, not concern. Something closer to satisfaction. She picks up her phone and types a name into a private search engine. Captain Reed. The results are sparse. a retired military officer, last known address in upstate New York, no social media presence. Exactly the kind of person her father would trust with secrets worth killing for. Her office phone rings. Internal line. Thomas. Alana, could you come to the conference room? There's something we need to discuss about your father's estate planning. A few irregularities that need addressing. She stands, smoothing her skirt, checking her reflection in the window. Behind her own image, the city sprawls in every direction. Millions of people living normal lives, unaware that somewhere in this tower, a woman is deciding whether to trust the man who raised her or the ghost of the father who warned her. I'll be right there, she says. But first, she sends a single text to the number her father left in the portfolio. Captain Reed. We need to talk. The conference room is all windows and leather, designed to intimidate. Today, Alana is the one being intimidated. Thomas sits at the head of the table, her father's seat, with Marcus Chen and Victoria Bradford flanking him. The company's CFO and general counsel, both hired within the last 3 years, both recommended by Thomas. Alana, thank you for coming. Thomas gestures to a chair positioned opposite him, forcing her to face the windows, the light. An interrogation technique. We've discovered some concerning irregularities in your father's final transactions. Victoria slides a folder across the table. Inside, transfer documents, dated 2 weeks before her father's death, moving substantial assets into offshore accounts. Her father's signature at the bottom, notarized and official. I don't understand, Alana says, and she doesn't have to fake the confusion. These transactions aren't in her father's portfolio. What irregularities? Your father appears to have moved approximately $340 million into accounts we can't access, Marcus says, his tone apologetic but firm. Without board approval, without proper documentation. It's irregular. Illegal, Victoria corrects. Potentially, we need to investigate before the SEC does. Alana studies the signatures. They look right. The distinctive slant, the pressure on capitals. But something feels wrong. She's seen her father sign thousands of documents, and these are too perfect. Too consistent. What are you suggesting? She asks. Thomas leans forward, concern etched into every line of his face. We need to freeze those accounts while we investigate, for everyone's protection. The board is meeting tomorrow to discuss appointing a temporary financial oversight committee just until we resolve this. A committee you'd chair, Alana says. Someone needs to protect the company's interests. Alana sits back, letting silence fill the room. Through the windows, she can see the Montgomery building's reflection in the glass tower across the street. A ghost image of the empire her father built. The empire Thomas is dismantling, piece by piece, under the guise of protecting it. I'll need to review these documents with my own counsel, she says finally. Of course, Thomas says, but Victoria's already closing the folder, pulling it back across the table. We should keep this internal for now, Victoria says. Given the sensitive nature, any external investigation could trigger. I'm not investigating anything. Alana stands, smoothing her skirt with hands that don't shake, even though everything inside her is trembling. I'm protecting my inheritance. My father's legacy. Surely you can understand that, Uncle Thomas. She leaves before he can respond, walking with measured steps until she's in the elevator, until the doors close, until she's alone and can finally let her hands shake. Her phone buzzes, a reply from the unknown number. Dove's Rest Tavern, Route 9, tomorrow. 2 p.m, come alone. Captain Reed. That night, Alana returns to the estate and finds what she's looking for. Her father's encrypted phone, the one from the safe. She powers it on, half expecting it to be wiped or dead. Instead, she finds voicemails. Dozens of them, all from the same number, all from the weeks before his death. She presses play on the first one. Her father's voice fills the car, strained and urgent. Reed, he knows. Thomas knows about the documentation. He's moving faster than we anticipated. If something happens to me, make sure Alana gets everything. The whole truth, not just the sanitized version. She needs to know what I did, what we all did. She needs to know why. The voicemail cuts off. Alana sits in the darkness of the garage, surrounded by cars worth more than houses, listening to her dead father confess to crimes she doesn't understand yet. The next voicemail starts. I think he's going to force my hand. The board meeting on the 15th. I think that's when he'll make his move. I need you to... Cut off again. She scrolls through the messages, watching the dates, watching the pattern. Her father called Captain Reed 17 times in his final week. The last call came at 11:52 p.m. on the night he died, 5 minutes after Thomas left the study, 3 hours before Henry Montgomery's heart stopped beating. Alana presses play on the final message. Reed, if you're hearing this, I'm already gone. Tell Alana I'm sorry. Tell her the money in the offshore accounts is hers. The access codes are in the Monet safe, behind the false back panel. Tell her Thomas poisoned more than just my trust. Tell her to run. The phone slips from her hands. Poisoned. Not metaphorically, not figuratively. Poisoned. Alana doesn't go to the office the next morning. Instead, she stands in her father's study at dawn, the Monet swung open, staring at a safe she thought she'd emptied. The false back panel her father mentioned clicks open after she removes the portfolio. Behind it, another envelope, this one containing nothing but a series of numbers, account access codes, and a medical report from a private lab in Switzerland. Patient, Henry Montgomery. Test date, 6 days before death. Findings. Elevated levels of digoxin, consistent with chronic poisoning. Recommendation, immediate hospitalization. Chef, father knew. He knew he was being poisoned, and he didn't go to the hospital. He documented it instead, building his case against Thomas while dying. Why? Alana's hands shake as she photographs the report, the access codes, everything. Her phone shows 1:47 p.m., 13 minutes until she's supposed to meet Captain Reed. 2 hours north, through traffic that doesn't care that her entire world is collapsing. She makes it with 3 minutes to spare. Dove's Rest Tavern is exactly what it sounds like. A roadside bar that's seen better decades, all weathered wood and neon beer signs. Inside, it smells like cigarettes and regret. A man sits alone in the corner booth, military posture despite civilian clothes, salt and pepper hair cut short. Captain Reed, Alana says, sliding into the seat across from him. Just Reed now. His eyes assess her with uncomfortable precision. You look like your mother. My father was poisoned, she says, because there's no time for small talk. You knew. I suspected. Reed's voice is gravel and smoke. Henry called me the night he died, said Thomas had been dosing his scotch for weeks, maybe months, small amounts, enough to mimic heart disease. Why didn't he go to the police? Because Thomas wasn't working alone. Reed pulls out a tablet, swipes through photographs. Recognize anyone? Alana's blood turns cold. There's Thomas with Marcus Chen at a golf club, Victoria Bradford meeting with a man Alana doesn't know outside a building in the Cayman Islands. And more, board members, investors, even the family attorney, all connected by a web of meetings and money transfers that her father documented obsessively. He spent 5 years building this case, Reed says, gathering evidence, preparing to take them all down. Then he made a mistake. What mistake? Alana asked out of curiosity. He told Thomas he knew, confronted him, gave him an ultimatum, resign quietly or face prosecution. Reed's jaw tightens. Thomas chose option 3. Murder. The word hangs between them, unspoken but deafening. The offshore accounts, Alana says, the $340 million they claim my father moved illegally. Witness protection money, Reed interrupts. Your father was working with federal prosecutors. That money was supposed to be his security, his leverage, a way to start over if the case went south. And now Thomas wants it. Thomas needs it. Those accounts contain the final pieces of evidence. Transaction records linking him to money laundering, fraud, conspiracy. If prosecutors get that documentation, Thomas goes to prison for life. Reed leans forward. Your father hid the access in plain sight because he knew you'd find it. The question is, what are you going to do with it? Alana thinks about the board meeting happening tomorrow, the oversight committee Thomas wants to establish, the way he's systematically isolated her from allies, from resources, from truth. My father tried playing by the rules, she says. It got him killed. So what's your play? Alana pulls out her phone and opens the encrypted files. Transaction records, medical reports, voicemails, video footage, 20 years of crimes, documented with the precision of a man who knew he was racing death. I'm going to do what he couldn't, she says. I'm going to burn it all down. Reed smiles, wolfish and approving. You'll need help. Thomas has resources. I have resources too. I have the truth, and I have something Thomas doesn't. Alana screamed. What's that? Reed asked. Nothing left to lose. Alana stands, tucking her phone away. Through the tavern's grimy windows, she can see her car in the parking lot. A Tesla her father bought her for graduation, back when she thought his love and his money were the same thing. Back when she thought people like Thomas Hale were heroes instead of predators in expensive suits. The board meeting is tomorrow at 9, she says. Can you be in the city by 8? What do you need? A witness. Alana heads for the door, then pauses. And Reed? Thank you for trying to help him, for not giving up when he died. I made him a promise, Reed says, that if Thomas killed him, I'd make sure his daughter knew the truth. Consider it kept. She drives back to Manhattan with the sunset in her rearview mirror, the city rising before her like a promise or a threat. Her phone rings 6 times. Thomas, Victoria, Marcus. But she doesn't answer. She's done taking calls from conspirators. Instead, she calls the one person who might still be clean, David Park, the junior attorney who works under Victoria, who looked uncomfortable during this morning's ambush. David, she says when he answers, how would you like to be the whistleblower who takes down the most corrupt corporate conspiracy in Montgomery Group history? His silence tells her everything. I'm listening, he finally says. By the time Alana reaches her penthouse, she has 3 allies. Reed, David, and an investigative journalist her father had been feeding information to before he died. Not many, maybe not enough, but it's a start. She opens her laptop and begins drafting an email to the Securities and Exchange Commission. Subject line: Fraud, conspiracy, and murder at Montgomery Group Holdings. Her finger hovers over send. Once she does this, there's no going back. Thomas will know she knows. The board will panic. The media will swarm. Everything her father built, even the legitimate parts, will be scrutinized, questioned, potentially destroyed. But the alternative is letting her father's killer win, letting Thomas take everything. Becoming complicit in her own exploitation. Alana hits send. Then she pours herself 2 fingers of scotch from her father's favourite bottle, the one she took from his study, and toasts the empty room. For you, Dad, she whispers, I'm finishing what you started. Outside her windows, Manhattan glitters with possibility and danger. Somewhere in that sprawl of light and steel, Thomas Hale is making his own plans, moving his own pieces, confident that the naive heiress he's been manipulating will roll over and accept his coup. He's about to learn that Henry Montgomery's daughter inherited more than money. She inherited his ruthlessness. The SEC email triggers a cascade Alana didn't fully anticipate. By 6 a.m., her building's lobby is swarming with federal agents. By 7, Thomas is calling every 30 seconds. By 8, when she's supposed to meet Reed, her phone has 47 missed calls and 3 voicemails from lawyers she's never heard of, all threatening litigation if she persists in making defamatory claims. She ignores all of it and heads to the coffee shop 3 blocks from Montgomery Group headquarters, where Reed waits with a laptop and a grim expression. You poked the hornet's nest, he says by way of greeting. Good. I want them panicking. Alana slides into the booth, accepting the coffee he's ordered for her. Black, no sugar. How does he know that? What's happening? Thomas filed an emergency injunction claiming you're mentally unstable due to grief. He's got 3 psychiatrists lined up to testify you've been erratic since your father's death. Reed spins the laptop to face her. He's moving to have you declared temporarily incompetent. If the judge agrees, he becomes conservator of your assets pending evaluation. It's brilliant, vicious, exactly what her father would have done to an enemy. He can't, Alana says, but her voice wavers. I'm 28 years old. I run a multi-billion-dollar company. You ran it. The board voted at 6 this morning to place you on administrative leave pending the SEC investigation. Thomas is interim CEO. Reed's expression is hard. He's good, Alana, better than your father gave him credit for. He's already positioned himself as the stable hand protecting the company from your reckless accusations. Alana's coffee tastes like ash. Through the window she can see Montgomery Group headquarters, her name still on the building. For now. The evidence, she says. The medical reports, the recordings. Circumstantial. Your father never got a full autopsy. The Swiss lab results could be fabricated. The recordings are just a dying man's paranoid theories. Reed leans forward. Without your father's body, we can't prove poisoning. And his body was cremated 6 months ago at Thomas's suggestion. Of course it was. Alana thinks about her father's voice on those recordings, desperate and urgent. She thinks about 20 years of manipulation, of Thomas positioning himself as the indispensable ally while slowly stealing everything. She thinks about how close he is to winning. There has to be something, she says, some piece of evidence that's not circumstantial. Her phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. They're coming for you. Get out. Now. Alana looks up, in time to see 2 black SUVs pull up outside the coffee shop. Men in suits emerge, moving with purpose. Not federal agents. Private security. Thomas's people. We need to go, Reed says, already standing. They exit through the kitchen, past confused cooks and dishwashers, into an alley that reeks of garbage and last night's rain. Reed moves like someone who's done this before, checking corners, assessing escape routes. My apartment, Alana says. I have more documentation there. They'll have people waiting. Reed flags down a taxi with the efficiency of someone who doesn't trust technology. You can't go anywhere they'd expect. Then where? He gives the driver an address in Queens, somewhere Alana has never been, would never think to go. They ride in silence while she watches Manhattan recede, her empire shrinking in the rear window. Her phone rings. Thomas. Against Reed's headshake, she answers. Alana, sweetheart, where are you? His voice is warm honey over broken glass. We're all worried. You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking perfectly clearly, Uncle Thomas. She spits the word like poison. I know what you did. I know about the digoxin. I know everything. Then there was silence. Your father was a paranoid old man who couldn't accept that his empire was crumbling. He invented conspiracies to avoid admitting he'd failed. He didn't fail. You sabotaged him, Alana yelled. I saved him. 20 years ago, when he was drowning in debt and bad decisions, I pulled him out. I built this company as much as he did. Thomas's voice hardens, the mask slipping. And I'm not going to let his delusional daughter destroy it because she can't accept that Daddy wasn't perfect. You killed him. I loved him, more than you ever could. The words are vicious, precisely aimed to wound. He was like a brother to me. And then he got sick, paranoid, and started seeing enemies everywhere. The digoxin levels, side effects from his heart medication, the offshore accounts. His attempt to hide assets from the board before we could stop his reckless spending. Everything you think you've discovered is the confused narrative of a grief-stricken girl who can't accept that her father was human. It's a good story, believable, the kind of narrative that would play well in court, in the media, in the boardroom where reputations are made and destroyed. You're lying, Alana says. Prove it. Thomas's voice softens, becomes almost gentle. Come back to the office. Let's talk about this like adults. I can help you, Alana, get you the treatment you need. But you have to trust me. She hangs up. The taxi stops in front of a nondescript apartment building, all brick and fire escapes. Reed pays cash and leads her inside, up 3 flights of stairs that smell like cooking and other people's lives. Safe house, he explains, unlocking a door to reveal a studio apartment that's more of a storage unit than a living space. Boxes everywhere, filing cabinets, a wall covered in photographs and string connecting them like a conspiracy theorist's dream, or nightmare. Welcome to your father's real office, Reed says, the one Thomas doesn't know about. Alana steps inside, staring at 20 years of investigation laid out in organized chaos. Photos of Thomas with people she doesn't recognize. Bank statements, transfer records. And in the center, a photograph of her father, younger and smiling, with a woman who isn't her mother. Who is she? Alana asks. Your father's first wife, Reed says quietly. Thomas's sister. The world tilts. What? Thomas Hale isn't just your father's business partner, Reed says. He's your uncle, by marriage. And 30 years ago, your father made a mistake that Thomas has never forgiven him for. Alana sinks into the room's only chair, staring at the photograph. The woman is beautiful, dark-haired, laughing at something outside the frame. She has Thomas's eyes. She died, Reed continues. Car accident. But your father always suspected that Thomas killed her, Alana finishes. Jesus Christ, how deep does this go? Deeper than your father knew. Deeper than I know. Reed pulls out a file box, sets it on the desk. But the answers are here, somewhere. Your father spent 5 years collecting this evidence. Now it's yours. Alana opens the box. Inside, more documents, more photographs, more secrets than any one person should have to carry. And at the bottom, a letter, addressed to her in her father's handwriting. Open when you're ready to know why I did what I did. She breaks the seal with shaking hands and begins to read. My dearest Alana, if you're reading this, you've discovered more than I wanted you to know, more than any daughter should know about her father. But you deserve the truth, even the ugly parts. I married Thomas's sister, Catherine, when I was 25. She was brilliant, beautiful, everything I thought, wanted. But I was ambitious and reckless, and I made choices that hurt her. I had an affair with your mother. Catherine found out. 2 days later, she drove off a cliff on the Pacific Coast Highway. The police called it an accident, wet roads, poor visibility, tragedy. Thomas called it murder. He accused me of driving her to suicide, of destroying her life so thoroughly that death seemed preferable. He was right. I tried to make amends. I gave him a stake in the business, made him a partner, and thought if I could make him rich enough, powerful enough, he'd forgive me. Instead, I gave him the tools to destroy me. 20 years, Alana. 20 years of him plotting, positioning, waiting for the perfect moment to take everything I built and leave me with nothing but the knowledge that I deserved it. I don't deserve forgiveness. From Catherine, from Thomas, from you when you learn what kind of man your father really was. But I need you to understand, this isn't about money or power. This is about revenge dressed up as justice. Thomas believes he's avenging his sister. Maybe he is. But that doesn't mean he gets to win. The evidence in this room proves crimes beyond vindication for Catherine's death. Money laundering, fraud, conspiracy. And yes, my murder. Thomas has become the very thing he accused me of being, a man so consumed by revenge that he's willing to destroy innocent people to achieve it. You're innocent, Alana. You didn't make my mistakes. You don't deserve to pay for my sins. Fight him, not for me, for yourself, for the truth. I love you, more than I loved my own redemption. Dad. The letter falls from Alana's hands. She sits in the safe house's dim light, surrounded by evidence of her father's guilt and Thomas's crimes. and realizes that there are no heroes in this story. Only people making terrible choices for complicated reasons. "You knew," she says to Reed, "about Catherine, about everything." "Your father told me," Reed admits, "near the end, when he knew Thomas was going to kill him and he needed someone to understand why he wasn't going to the police, why he was willing to die rather than expose Thomas's motivation." Guilt. Love. Reed's voice is rough. "Your father loved Catherine. Her death broke something in him. He spent 20 years trying to make it right, and it still wasn't enough." Alana stands, paces the small room, her mind racing. Outside, night has fallen over Queens. Somewhere in Manhattan, Thomas is consolidating power, positioning himself to take everything. And she's hiding in a safe house with a box of evidence that proves her father was as guilty as the man who killed him. How do you fight a villain when you're the villain's daughter? Her phone buzzes. David Park, the junior attorney. Emergency board meeting called for tomorrow morning. Thomas is pushing for permanent removal. You need to act fast. Alana stares at the message, then at the boxes of evidence, then at her father's photograph on the wall. Young and hopeful, and unaware that one mistake would cascade into decades of destruction. "I need to see him," she says suddenly. "Thomas, face to face." "That's suicide," Reed says. "Maybe. Or maybe it's the only way to end this." Alana starts gathering documents, stuffing them into her bag. "My father tried to fight Thomas from the shadows. It didn't work. He died alone, poisoned, with his secrets intact, and his enemy victorious." "So what's your plan?" Reed asked. "Confession." Alana's voice is steel. "Public, complete, undeniable. I'm going to walk into that board meeting tomorrow and lay out everything. My father's guilt, Thomas's crimes, all of it. Let them decide who deserves to lose everything." "They'll destroy you too," Reed warns. "I know." Alana meets his eyes. "But at least I'll go down telling the truth. That's more than my father managed." She leaves the safe house at midnight, Reed's protests fading behind her. The streets of Queens give way to Manhattan's glittering skyline, and Alana drives toward the only home she has left, the penthouse her father bought with blood money, where every piece of art and furniture is a reminder of the empire built on Catherine Hale's grave. She spends the night writing her statement, every crime, every betrayal, hers, her father's, Thomas's, a complete accounting of the Montgomery family's sins, documented with the precision of someone who has nothing left to protect. At 3 a.m. her phone rings. "Thomas, I know what you're planning," he says. "The board meeting, the grand confession. Very dramatic, very you." "Then you know I can't be stopped," Alana responded. "Can't you?" His voice is soft, dangerous. "Think carefully, Alana. If you expose me, you expose your father. His legacy becomes that of a cheating husband who drove his first wife to suicide and built his empire on fraud. Is that what you want the world to remember?" "He was those things," Alana says, "but he was also a man who tried to make amends, who documented his own crimes to stop you from committing worse ones. That legacy? I can live with it. What about your mother's legacy?" Alana's blood freezes. "What? Catherine wasn't the only casualty of your father's ambition." Thomas's words are carefully chosen, each one a knife. "How do you think I got your mother to marry Henry? A grieving widower with blood on his hands, I helped them meet, encouraged the relationship, made sure she never knew the truth about Catherine." "You're lying," Alana yelled. "Am I? Ask yourself, why would a woman like your mother, educated, independent, morally upright, marry a man like your father unless she didn't know what he'd done?" "I gave him the cover story, the respectable second chance, and in exchange he gave me access to you." The room spins. "Access to me?" "From the moment you were born," Thomas continued, "I've been part of your life. Uncle Thomas, the trusted advisor, the man who held you at your christening and taught you to drive and walked you through your first board meeting." His voice drops to a whisper. I've been waiting 28 years for this moment, Alana. For the day when I could take everything from Henry Montgomery's daughter and make her understand what it felt like to lose someone you love to betrayal. You're insane. Alana cuts him off before he could finish. I'm patient. Thomas laughs, hollow and bitter. Go ahead. Make your confession tomorrow. Destroy your father's legacy. Ruin your mother's memory of her marriage. Burn the Montgomery name to ash. I've already won. Because no matter what happens to me, you'll spend the rest of your life knowing that every moment of love you received was built on lies I helped construct. He hangs up. Alana sits in the darkness of her penthouse, her statement glowing on the laptop screen, and realizes that Thomas is right. There's no version of this story where she wins. No ending where the truth sets. Anyone free. But maybe that's not the point. Maybe the point is that some lies are too big to sustain, some secrets too toxic to keep. Maybe the only way forward is to burn it all down and hope something honest can grow in the ashes. She saves the statement, backs it up to 3 cloud servers, and sends copies to David Park, Reed, and the investigative journalist. Then she goes to bed, knowing that tomorrow she'll wake up and destroy the only family she has left, including herself. The Montgomery Group boardroom has never felt so much like a mausoleum. 15 people sit around the mahogany table, board members, executives, lawyers, all staring at Alana like she's a bomb with a visible timer. Thomas presides from the head of the table, her father's seat, wearing an expression of concerned sympathy that makes her want to scream. Thank you all for coming on such short notice, he begins, voice smooth as poison. As you know, we're here to discuss Alana Montgomery's fitness, to continue in her current role. I resign, Alana interrupts. Then there was silence. Thomas's mask slips for half a second. Surprise, maybe, or victory. Alana, you don't have to make rash decisions, Victoria starts. I'm not. Alana stands, pulling out the folder she's prepared. But before I leave, you all deserve to know why I'm resigning, and what this company really is. She opens the folder and begins distributing documents, 20 years of crimes, laid out in spreadsheets and bank statements, her father's confession, Thomas's conspiracy, all of it. What is this? Marcus demands, scanning the papers. The truth. Alana's voice is steady, even as her hands shake. My father, Henry Montgomery, built this empire on fraud, manipulation, and blood money. 28 years ago, he had an affair that drove his first wife to suicide. That wife was Catherine Hale, Thomas's sister. The room erupts. Thomas remains perfectly still, his eyes locked on Alana with an intensity that feels like physical violence. For 20 years, Alana continues over the noise, Thomas Hale has been systematically stealing from this company as revenge for Catherine's death, but in the process, he's committed crimes that dwarf my father's sins. Money laundering, fraud, and murder. She places the Swiss medical report in front of Thomas. My father was poisoned with digoxin for months before his death. Thomas had access, means, and motive. The evidence is circumstantial, but combined with everything else, the offshore accounts, the shell companies, the systematic transfer of assets, it paints a clear picture. This is slander, Thomas says quietly, dangerously. It's confession. Alana meets his eyes. I'm confessing to being the daughter of a man who destroyed lives. I'm confessing to inheriting an empire built on suffering. And I'm confessing that I'd rather lose everything than continue the lie. She pulls out her final document, her resignation letter, effective immediately, transferring all her shares to a trust that will be liquidated and distributed to Catherine Hale's surviving family and various charities. You can't do this, Victoria says, but she sounds uncertain. I already have. The paperwork is filed with the SEC. By the time this meeting ends, I'll own nothing. The Montgomery name will be associated with fraud and betrayal, exactly as it should be. And Thomas, she turns to face him fully. You win. You get the company. You get the revenge. You get everything except the one thing you actually wanted. My father's suffering. He's dead. He escaped you. And now, so am I. Thomas stands so fast his chair topples backward. You sanctimonious little... Careful, Alana says. We're being recorded. Everything. This meeting, this confession, all of it is being live-streamed to federal prosecutors, the SEC, and 3 major news networks. The room erupts again. People check their phones, confirming that yes, the company's official social media accounts are broadcasting this disaster in real time. The Montgomery confession hashtag is already trending. Thomas's face goes from red to white. You've destroyed us all. I've freed us all, Alana corrects. From the lies, from the conspiracy, from the endless cycle of revenge disguised as justice. She gathers her things, preparing to leave. The evidence is all public now. Prosecutors will sort out who's guilty of what. I'll accept whatever consequences come from my father's crimes. The explosion happens so fast that later, Alana will only remember fragments. The conference room door slamming open. Men in tactical gear. Thomas reaching into his jacket. Reed's voice shouting, "Gun!" Then Reed is there, shoving her sideways as the shot rings out. The bullet hits the window behind where her head was a second ago, and the glass spiderwebs but doesn't shatter. Ballistic glass installed after 9/11, strong enough to stop anything short of a rocket. Thomas is on the ground in seconds, federal agents swarming him, someone reading Miranda rights while he screams about betrayal and justice and how Alana's father deserved to die. You're okay, Reed faces Alana, hands on her shoulders, checking for injuries. You're okay. But Alana isn't okay. She's watching Thomas Hale, the man who raised her, taught her, murdered her father, being dragged from the room in handcuffs, and all she feels is emptiness. No victory. No relief. Just the hollow certainty that everyone in this story lost something they'll never get back. The federal agents want statements. The board wants damage control. The media wants blood. Alana gives them all nothing and walks out of Montgomery Group headquarters for the last time. On the street, New York continues its indifferent chaos. Taxis honking, people rushing, the city turning over, without noticing that one billionaire heiress just gave away her entire fortune to atone for her father's sins. Reed follows her out. Where will you go? I don't know, Alana says honestly. Somewhere without servants or private jets or people who smile while planning your destruction. Somewhere normal. Normal is overrated. So is being a billionaire, apparently. She manages a weak smile. Thank you. For everything. For keeping my father's secrets. For keeping me alive. He'd be proud of you, Reed says. What you did in there. The confession, the sacrifice. That took courage he never had. Or stupidity he was smart enough to avoid. Maybe both. Reed hands her a card with a single phone number. If you need anything, if Thomas has associates we didn't catch, if normal becomes too quiet. Alana pockets the card and starts walking. No destination, no plan. Just one foot in front of the other, away from the building that bears her family's name, toward a future that holds nothing but possibility and uncertainty. Her phone buzzes. The investigative journalist. That was the most insane press conference I've ever seen. When can we talk? Alana silences her phone and keeps walking. Behind her, the Montgomery Empire begins its spectacular collapse. Stock prices plummet. Board members resign. Federal prosecutors open investigations that will take years to resolve. But ahead of her, the city stretches out in all its messy, complicated glory, full of people who've never heard of Henry Montgomery or Thomas Hale, who don't care about billionaire family drama, who are just trying to survive another day in a world that doesn't owe them anything. For the first time in her life, Alana Montgomery is one of them. And somehow, that feels like freedom. 3 months later, Alana testifies at Thomas Hale's trial. The courtroom is packed, media in the gallery, sketch artists capturing every moment, the kind of spectacle that defines careers and destroys reputations. Thomas sits at the defense table in a suit that costs more than most people's cars, looking every inch the distinguished businessman wrongly accused. But Alana knows better. She spent 3 months working with federal prosecutors, untangling 20 years of fraud and conspiracy. 3 months living in a studio apartment in Brooklyn, working as a consultant for non-profit organizations, learning what life looks like without a trust fund and a famous last name. 3 months becoming someone her father would barely recognize. "Ms. Montgomery," the prosecutor says, "can you describe the events of the night your father died?" Alana takes a breath and begins. The story spills out. Her father's journal, the hidden safe, Captain Reed's revelations, the medical report showing digoxin poisoning, Thomas's confession that he'd been planning revenge for 28 years. The defense attorney objects repeatedly, calling it hearsay and speculation. The judge allows most of it, recognizing that Alana isn't just a witness. She's the culmination of a conspiracy that spans decades. "And what motivated you," the prosecutor asks, "to give up your entire inheritance?" "Guilt," Alana says simply. "My father built that fortune on lies and suffering. I didn't earn it. I didn't deserve it. And keeping it would have meant perpetuating the cycle of betrayal that destroyed so many lives." "Including your own?" the prosecutor asked. "Especially my own." Alana looks directly at Thomas. "He taught me that wealth without integrity is just another form of poverty. That legacy matters more than money. That sometimes the only way to win is to refuse to play the game." Thomas's expression doesn't change, but something flickers in his eyes. Respect, maybe, or recognition that Alana has done what her father never could. She's chosen truth over comfort. The trial lasts 3 weeks. Testimony from accountants, investigators, former employees. The evidence is overwhelming. 20 years of systematic theft, fraud, conspiracy. The murder charge is harder to prove, but the Swiss medical report, combined with Thomas's confession during Alana's live-streamed board meeting, provides enough for the jury to convict. On the day of the verdict, Alana sits in the gallery next to Reed and David Park, who've become unlikely allies in her new life. The jury files in, their faces carefully neutral. On the charge of first-degree murder, guilty. On the charges of fraud, conspiracy, money laundering, guilty, guilty, guilty. Thomas doesn't flinch. He stands as the judge reads the sentence, life in prison without possibility of parole, and for just a moment, his eyes find Alana's across the courtroom. She expects anger, hatred. Instead, she sees something worse. Peace. The expression of a man who's finally achieved what he spent 3 decades pursuing, even if it cost him everything. He destroyed Henry Montgomery's empire. He exposed the family's secrets. He got his revenge. The fact that it also destroyed him. Apparently, that's acceptable collateral damage. After the verdict, reporters swarm Alana on the courthouse steps, microphones thrust in her face, cameras flashing, everyone wanting a statement from the billionaire heiress who gave it all away. "How do you feel about the verdict?" someone shouts. Alana thinks about her father, about Catherine Hale, the woman she never met who died because of secrets and lies. About her mother, who learned about her husband's past from news reports and hasn't spoken to Alana since the confession. "I feel like justice was served," she says carefully, "but I also feel like everyone in this story lost something irreplaceable. Thomas lost his freedom. My father lost his life. I lost my family, my fortune, my identity. And for what? Revenge? Vindication? A footnote in tomorrow's news cycle? Do you regret your decision to go public?" "Every day," Alana admits, "but I'd make the same choice again. Because the alternative, living with the lie, profiting from my father's crimes, would have destroyed me more slowly and just as completely as the truth did." She pushes through the crowd, Reed and David running interference, and climbs into a subway car that smells like humanity and possibility. No more private jets. No more drivers. Just the two train to Brooklyn, standing room only, pressed against strangers who don't care that she used to be worth billions. That night, Alana sits in her studio apartment, 400 square feet of borrowed furniture and second-hand dreams, and writes the final chapter of her father's story. Not for publication, not for vindication, just for herself. Dear Dad, I understand now why you couldn't stop. Thomas, why you chose documentation over action, why you prepared for your own death instead of fighting to prevent it. You thought suffering was atonement, that if Thomas destroyed you, it would somehow balance the scales for what you did to Catherine. You were wrong. Suffering isn't redemption. Sacrifice isn't absolution. You can't make amends for destroying one life by allowing someone to destroy yours. But you can choose to break the cycle, to refuse to pass the trauma down to the next generation, to say, this ends with me. That's what I'm doing. The Montgomery empire is gone. The family name is mud. Everything you built has crumbled. And I'm free. Free to be someone who earns their own living, who builds relationships based on honesty instead of inheritance, who makes mistakes that are mine alone, not echoes of your failures. I don't forgive you for what you did to Catherine. I don't forgive Thomas for what he did to you. I don't even forgive myself for all the years I benefited from blood money without asking questions. But I'm learning to live with it, to build something new from the ashes, to be the person you should have been if you'd had the courage to face your own guilt instead of running from it. I hope wherever you are, you've found peace, or at least acceptance. I'm still working on both. Alana. She seals the letter in an envelope and files it away with all the other documentation of the Montgomery family's rise and fall. Someday, maybe, a historian will find it. Piece together the story of wealth and betrayal and the woman who chose truth over everything. Or maybe it'll just gather dust in a storage unit, forgotten like most family secrets, buried under the weight of new scandals and fresher tragedies. Either way, Alana Montgomery, former billionaire heiress, current non-profit consultant making $45,000 a year, is done carrying her father's guilt. She's got her own life to build now. And for the first time since she received that anonymous message on a private jet, surrounded by luxury and lies, she feels like she might actually know how. 6 months after the trial, Alana stands in front of a room full of college students at NYU's business school. The Montgomery case study, the professor introduces her, represents one of the most spectacular corporate collapses in modern history. We're fortunate to have Ms. Montgomery here to provide first-hand perspective on ethical leadership and the cost of corruption. Alana takes the podium, looking out at faces too young to understand how quickly life can unravel. She was their age when she thought wealth equaled worth, when she believed her father's empire was built on genius instead of blood. My name is Alana Montgomery, she begins, and I'm here to tell you about the most expensive mistake of my life, inheriting a fortune I didn't earn, built on crimes I didn't commit, sustained by lies I didn't question. For the next hour, she lays it out, the whole ugly truth. Her father's betrayal of Catherine, Thomas's decades-long revenge plot, the poisoning, the conspiracy, the moment she chose to burn it all down rather than perpetuate the cycle. The students listen with the rapt attention of people watching a car crash in slow motion. So, here's what I learned, Alana concludes. Wealth without integrity is worthless. Legacy without truth is just mythology. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from everything you thought defined you. During Q&A, a student raises her hand. Do you regret it? Giving up billions of dollars for principles? Alana considers the question honestly. She thinks about her studio apartment, her student loan debt from the MBA program she's enrolled in, the way she checks price tags now before buying groceries. Every single day, she says, I regret losing my family. I regret the pain my confession caused my mother. I regret that I can't afford the life I was raised to expect. But, the student prompts, but I don't regret being able to look at myself in the mirror. I don't regret knowing that my success, whatever it is, will be earned, not inherited. I don't regret choosing truth over comfort. Alana pauses. The money was never really mine. It belonged to the people my father exploited, the lives Thomas destroyed, the system we both participated in without questioning. Giving it up wasn't noble. It was necessary. After the lecture, students swarm her with questions and business cards. A few want advice. A few want absolution for their own ethical compromises. Most just want to understand how someone walks away from billions. Alana gives them what she can. Honesty, perspective, the hard-won wisdom of someone who learned that net worth and self-worth aren't the same thing. As she's leaving, a text arrives from Reed. Thomas died in prison this morning. Stroke. Thought you'd want to know. Alana stops on the NYU campus, surrounded by students rushing to class, and feels nothing. No grief, no relief. Just the quiet certainty that Thomas Hale spent his entire life pursuing revenge and died without ever understanding that victory and vindication aren't synonymous. She types back, "Thanks for letting me know. How are you?" Reed's response is immediate. "Good. You?" Alana looks around at her new life. The campus, the students, the future she's building from scratch. She thinks about the job offer from a non-profit focused on corporate accountability, about the apartment she's moving into next month, slightly bigger, in a neighborhood with actual restaurants. About the man she's been seeing, a teacher who knows her story and likes her anyway. "Getting there," she texts back, "one day at a time." She pockets her phone and joins the stream of students flowing across campus. No bodyguards, no drivers, no cameras documenting her every move, just another person trying to build something meaningful in a world that doesn't owe her anything. It's terrifying. It's liberating. It's real. That night, Alana sits at her desk and opens a new document. Not a confession this time. Not a letter to her dead father. Something different. A memoir. Her story, told her way. Not to justify or excuse, but to document what happens when you inherit a throne built on graves and choose to abdicate rather than rule. She titles it, "The Last Secret of the Billionaire Heiress. How I Gave Up Everything to Find Myself." The cursor blinks, waiting. Alana begins to type. "The champagne flute slips from my fingers. It doesn't shatter. The private jet's carpeting is too plush, too expensive for something as dramatic as breaking glass. Instead, it rolls beneath my seat, leaving a golden trail across Italian leather, while I stare at 3 words that will change everything. Trust no one, especially him." The words flow. The story pours out. Not redemption. She's long past believing suffering equals absolution. But for documentation, for the next billionaire heiress who discovers her empire is built on blood, for the next daughter who has to choose between family loyalty and moral clarity, for anyone who's ever wondered whether the truth is worth the cost. Hours later, exhausted and exhilarated, Alana saves the document and closes her laptop. Through her window, Brooklyn spreads out in all its chaotic glory, lights and lives, and people making their own choices, bearing their own consequences. She's one of them now. Not special. Not exceptional. Just another person trying to do better than the generation before, to build something honest from the ruins of inherited lies. Her phone buzzes one last time. An email from an unknown address. No subject line, just a message. "You did the right thing. Catherine would have liked you." No signature, no way to trace it. But Alana knows instinctively that it's from someone who knew Catherine Hale, who watched the Montgomery empires collapse with satisfaction, who wanted Alana to know that her sacrifice mattered to someone. She replies, "I hope so. I'm trying to be worth her forgiveness." Then she turns off her phone, climbs into bed, and sleeps without nightmares for the first time in months. Tomorrow she'll wake up and continue building her new life. She'll go to class, work her non-profit job, maybe grab coffee with the teacher who makes her laugh. She'll be Alana Montgomery, not the billionaire heiress, not the whistleblower who destroyed an empire, just a woman trying to be better than her inheritance. But tonight, she rests. The last secret of the billionaire heiress isn't hidden in safes or encrypted files. It's this. Sometimes the only way to truly live is to let everything you thought you were die first. And from those ashes, if you're brave enough, you can become something real. 2 years later, The Last Secret of the Billionaire. Heiress became a bestseller. The proceeds go to a foundation supporting children of wealthy families seeking therapy for inherited trauma. Alana Montgomery, MBA graduate and non-profit director, watches from the audience as her book wins awards she donated before receiving. She doesn't return to the spotlight. She doesn't need to. She's already found what her father spent his whole life searching for, peace with who she actually is, not who she was supposed to be. In a quiet cemetery in upstate New York, 2 graves sit side by side, Henry Montgomery and Catherine Hale. Alana visits once a year, bringing flowers for them both. "I'm okay," she tells them. "We're all okay now. It's not quite true, but it's close enough. And that, finally, is enough." If you enjoyed this episode, like, comment, and subscribe for more. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to stay updated. Share the story with friends and join us for more stories.